Ask any farmer why he grows his crops in the sunlight, and he might find it an odd question. But can any crop, in other words, any green plant, grow without sunlight? Here's a place where sunlight never falls, a deep underground cave. There is no sunlight here, and no green plants. Outside the cave, in the sunlight, the scene is different. Another place where sunlight never falls is deep underwater. 1,000 feet down, the ocean's floor looks like this. Sunlight cannot penetrate to this depth, and there are no green plants growing here. At the ocean's surface, sunlight does penetrate to a depth of about 50 feet. At this depth, green plants flourish. So it appears that green plants grow only where sunlight falls. But why? Sunlight carries energy, enough to make the vanes of a radiometer turn, enough to make the liquid in a thermometer rise, or, when concentrated with a mirror, enough energy to burn wood. Now let's experiment to find out what effect the energy of sunlight has on green plants. This plant has been receiving normal sunlight, but one leaf covered with aluminum foil has received no sunlight for 48 hours. To understand the experiment, you have to know what effect iodine has on starch, a basic food. It turns the starch black. Now let's take 2 leaves from the plant, the one that's been covered and one that's been in the sun. First, the leaves are softened with hot water. Next, they are dipped in hot alcohol. The alcohol removes most of the green coloring from the leaves. Now the iodine solution. The iodine has little effect on the leaf that received no sun, but part of the other leaf is turning black. The leaf that was exposed to the sun made starch. In other words, this leaf has been manufacturing food using the energy of sunlight. And notice something else. Starch was made only in that part of the leaf that was green. Where there was no green coloring, no starch was made. But why? A close look at a leaf shows that it is made of many tiny cells, and some of them appear to be green. Within each green cell are still smaller bodies, and within each body are the green specks that give a leaf its color. One such green speck seen through an electron microscope looks like this. It contains chlorophyll, the green substance essential for food making in a plant. No one knows precisely what role chlorophyll plays when a plant makes food, but no food making can take place without it. So chlorophyll and sunlight are 2 essential ingredients for food making in a plant. What else is necessary? A close look at a leaf reveals a network of veins. Under a microscope, one can see water moving through these veins. If a plant is denied water, it will soon die. This is the underside of a leaf. Seen through a microscope, small openings called stomates are revealed. Each stomate is a small hole that opens and closes, letting air pass into and out of the leaf. This plant in a vacuum jar has had no air for 10 days. So this suggests that plants need air and water as well as sunlight and chlorophyll to make food and stay alive. With this drawing, we can illustrate the food-making process. Water that has entered the plant through its roots comes into the leaf through the veins and diffuses throughout the whole leaf. When the sun comes up, the stomates open wide and air enters the leaf. A gas in the air called carbon dioxide dissolves in the water. Sunlight penetrates the leaf and some of its energy is trapped by the chlorophyll. No one knows precisely what happens next, but it is known that in the presence of chlorophyll, the energy of the sun is used to break down the water into its parts, oxygen and hydrogen. The hydrogen and the carbon dioxide are combined to form a sugar, and much of the sugar is converted into other forms of food, such as starch. The leftover gas, oxygen, moves out of the leaf and replenishes the surrounding air. If the leaf were to be boiled in water, its cells would break down and the leaf would wrinkle. If it were put into hot alcohol, the alcohol would enter the broken cells and remove the chlorophyll. And finally, if iodine were to enter the broken cells and come into contact with the starch, the leaf would turn black. The name given to the food-making process that occurs in green plants is photosynthesis, which means putting together with light. The food that a plant makes moves throughout the plant and is used for its growth, or is stored in a fruit, a stem, a seed, or in a root. All parts of plants that we and other animals eat. So green plants, through photosynthesis, trap the sun's energy. Energy now available to us is stored chemical energy in the food we eat. And because all food comes directly or indirectly from green plants, without them there would be no food and no life on Earth. We've seen something of how photosynthesis is carried on in familiar land plants. But actually, most of the photosynthesis on Earth, about 90% of it, takes place just below the surface of lakes and oceans. It occurs mainly in tiny green plants, some so small they can be seen only through a microscope. They are called algae. Uncounted billions of them crowd the waters of the Earth. They contain chlorophyll and are able to trap sunlight and make food from water and carbon dioxide in much the same way as green plants of the land. The algae are eaten by smaller fish. Bigger fish eat the smaller fish, and so on until the oceans are teeming with life and food. Since 90% of all photosynthesis occurs underwater, producing such vast quantities of food energy, man may in the future turn to farming the seas to meet his increasing needs for food.